Welcome back to Close Up. He's a bona fide hero of the war in Iraq and a three-term congressman now considering a run for president. Congressman Moulton is here this morning. Thank you for joining us, Congressman. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
So Iraq was a defining moment for you, obviously. Where do you see that country stand right now, and what should happen next in terms of U.S. policy in that part of the world?
You know, there's no one who wants to get the troops out of the Middle East more than I do, having spent so much of my life there myself. But we've got to make sure that we make clear what their mission is, and when they can come home for good. Because we already made the mistake of withdrawing troops too quickly from Iraq and then having to send them back a year later. I fear that the president is making the exact same mistake right now in Syria, where it's clear we don't have a mission and we're not clear what they're doing. But if we just abandon our allies there, we might have to go back. Same thing for Afghanistan. We need a clear, defined mission. I think it should just be counter-terror, bring all the rest of the troops home, be explicit about what we're doing there, and let the troops know this is what you have to accomplish to get home for good.
Is the world a safer place without Saddam Hussein in power in Iraq?
I mean, I guess it's a safer place without Saddam per se, but what about all the terrorists? I mean, we have more Sunni extremists in the world today than we did on 9/11. What does that say about our policy in the war on terror? I think it's time to totally rethink our national security. I think the next commander-in-chief has got to really prepare our troops and our country for the next generation of threats. Because Russia isn't attacking us with ICBMs and troops running into Western Europe. They're attacking us through the internet. China is stealing our businesses' ideas through the internet every single day. They are literally stealing American jobs. So while the president talks about building a wall on the southern border as if immigrants are stealing our jobs, China actually is. What we need is a cyber wall, not a border wall. That's the kind of next generation thinking that I think that the next commander-in-chief has to bring to the table.
Obviously, such a huge burden has been borne by our veterans, especially overseas and in the Middle East. What can Congress do to resolve this issue of veteran suicide, this epidemic we're seeing right now?
Well, my bottom line is that veterans deserve the best health care in the world, period. And when I got elected back in 2014, I made a commitment to continue getting my own health care at the VA until we can fix it. And I've worked very hard in Congress to fix the VA, often working across the aisle to get things done that will really make a difference for veterans, like the Faster Care for Veterans Act that I passed to make it easier for veterans to make appointments at the VA. That's the first step, because veterans come home and they go to the VA for care. That means that if the VA hospital is where you're going, it needs to be the best, as good as any private hospital. If you don't have a VA hospital nearby, then you need to be able to get the care you need at a private hospital. But I've had a first-hand experience with this through a lot of the guys I served with, many of whom have tried to get care for post-traumatic stress. I mean, we went through a lot. And a good example is a real hero of mine from the war. His name is James Hassel from Alabama. He saved another guy's life, in fact, a kid from St. Johnsbury, Vermont. And James got out and went back home and wanted to continue saving lives in the private sector. So we went to nursing school, got a great job. But having gone through what we saw, he had post-traumatic stress. So we went to the VA, but rather than give him the counseling they needed, they just gave him medicines. So many drugs that he had a heart attack at the age of 30 just from taking the medicines prescribed by the VA. That's not taking care of our veterans. That's really letting them down. And it starts with fixing the VA.
Let's shift more to the political side here. You've always gone your own way in Congress. Was it a mistake now, looking back, to take on Speaker Pelosi?
No, I don't think it was a mistake, because frankly, we should have a democratic process for how we choose our speaker. And she's doing a great job right now, standing up to Trump. But because we had that discussion, that debate about who should take our party forward, we now have an agreement on term limits, which means that the new generation of Congress, this incredible class of freshmen, the most diverse ever, has a real prospect of having a voice in our leadership. It means that we got the climate change subcommittee and the voting rights subcommittee, which would never have happened without having that vigorous debate. And I actually think it's made her a stronger speaker. So we're the Democratic Party. We should be able to engage in the democratic process, and I'm proud that we did.
You proposed a new Voting Rights Act. Take us through exactly what you'd like to do in terms of voting rights.
Well, the reality today in America is that not everybody's vote counts. A lot of people know that, because of the way the Electoral College is structured, that their vote's not going to really matter in the presidential election. I was just down in North Carolina visiting with Dan McCready, who should be a sitting member of Congress but is not because the Republican Party stole votes in that election. They had this absentee ballot scheme that basically just took away votes from people, who thought that they were actually voting for their next congressman. And so what we need to do is really take a serious look at reforming the process. That means that we should have Election Day be a holiday, so everybody can go and vote. So you don't have to have crazy schemes with absentee ballots and everything else if you just want to be able to get the paid time off to go to vote. It means that we need to end gerrymandering. I mean, I have actually come from the first gerrymandered district ever in Massachusetts. Elbridge Gerry's house still stands in my hometown. And gerrymandering means that a lot of people feel that their vote doesn't really count. Their vote doesn't matter. It also makes incredibly partisan members of Congress. So these are some of the reforms that we need out of totally rethinking our electoral college system. I mean, the election system, I should say. You know, the most fundamental principle of a democracy is that your vote counts. Your vote matters. For all the problems of the Iraq War, I remember that first Iraqi election, the first time that Iraqis ever got to choose their leader. They had to dip their fingers in ink to mark that they had voted. And we thought that they would walk around the streets with their hands in their pockets or under their abayas because they didn't want insurgents to see that they had voted. But in fact, they walked through the streets holding their hands up high, showing that finger because it meant my vote mattered. My opinion counts. Today in America, not everybody's vote matters, and we need to change that.
Specifically, though, you do call for the abolition of the Electoral College?
We do. I think the Electoral College should go away. I also think that, when you look at Congress itself, we should get rid of the filibuster in the Senate so that the good things that we're doing in Congress, like passing H.R. 1, another thing that would help push money out of politics, can actually get passed by the Senate and turned into law.
Do you think abolition of the Electoral College is even reasonable? I mean, Congress can barely get the basics done. Trying to pass a constitutional amendment would seem almost like a moonshot.
Actually, no, it's going pretty well because there's an effort among the states right now to pass laws that essentially will move towards abolishing the Electoral College by talking about how their electoral colleges are apportioned in an election. It's a lot of wonky stuff, but state by state we're making progress and we're actually getting fairly close to 2/3.
And how do you do that without diminishing the power of a state like New Hampshire, which doesn't have a big population?
Well, the beauty of New Hampshire is its role in the primary, right? New Hampshire has a incredible role in our election process because of the time of the primary. But when it comes to the general election, it just means that every vote is the same. That whether you live in New Hampshire or Massachusetts, your one vote has the same effect on who the president is. And that should be the case in our democracy.
Speaking of our democracy, you're considering running for president. Take us through your thought process and the timetable you have for making a decision of whether or not to jump in on 2020.
Sure. So for me, this really does come back to my time in the Marines, because I didn't expect to be in politics even just a few years ago. I decided to join the Marines really because of the most important mentor I've ever had in my life, and he was the minister of my college church. And he talked a lot about the importance of service, about how it's not enough just to believe in service or support others who serve. You got to go out and find a way to give back yourself. And sitting in this church that was a memorial to the war dead, mainly from World War I and World War II, I couldn't help but think about these 18-year-old kids who put their lives on the line for our country every single day. So I decided to sign up, and I didn't know that September 11th would happen a few months after graduation, or that I'd do 4 tours in Iraq. But Iraq, as you said, was really a defining moment in my life. Some of the best days of my life were in Iraq because I met some of the most amazing Americans I've ever met. But some of the worst days were there too, because it was the first time that I really felt let down by my government, even betrayed in Washington by the people who had sent us there. And so when I came back, I decided that that's not going to change if people like me don't step up and serve. We've actually never had fewer veterans in Congress in our nation's history than we have over the last 10 years. And so I ran in 2014. I challenged an incumbent and won a really tough race. And now, as I look at the future, I think about all these people in America that I've met on the campaign trail over the past 2 years that I've been supporting a lot of veterans who were a big part of taking back the House in 2018. And going to a lot of districts that voted for Trump, some that voted for Obama but then voted for Trump, you feel the same sense of betrayal, of being let down by Washington. Our economy is changing faster than it's ever changed before. Jobs aren't being taken by immigrants, they're being taken by robots.
We're hitting the time limit here, Congressman. What the timetable, though, for running for president is?
So I'll make a decision in the next month. But the point is that there are a lot of Americans who are feeling left behind by Washington. And we need a commander-in-chief who can take this country forward, who can take on Donald Trump, but can also unite the country when we're done.
All right. Congressman Seth Moulton, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Adam.
We'll be